Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. So we're gonna be brief, man. This is just a little short discussion, man, about what the brother asked me, man. So I just want to remind everybody, though, that the new year is approaching. We're about to be in, mashallah, to better call Allah. I know it, but I want to be sure. Yeah. So we're about to be in 1447, right? The 4th of Dhul Hijjah. So they put us at about 26, 25 days away from the new year, right? For those who keep up with the Muslim New Year. I know for some people, January 1st, the new year for them. But the Muslim New Year. So I want to advise the brothers, man, and the sisters, the Muslims, to develop a mindset that I'm going to do better next year. I'm not talking in terms of no New Year's resolutions or resolutions, whatever they call it. I ain't been involved in that stuff, man, in 30 years, man. But anyway, the new year is coming. So, have something set for yourself, some Islamic goals, for the new year. You know what I'm saying? Things you're going to strive in. I'm going to read more. I'm going to pray more. I'm going to get better at what I'm already consistent in doing. Whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? For the new year. Like I said, we basically roughly 3 weeks away from the new year. We about to be in the year 1447, right? So, now this is an interesting topic. The brother asked me, where I spoke a little bit about Yasir Qadhi and the book he's writing about the truth about Salafism and how the scholars is starting to do different talks about what Salafiyya is. Numerous scholars, numerous talks. Alright. So basically they asked me, do I feel that Yasir Qadhi is qualified to speak about Salafism just because he got a PhD? So, it brought something to my mind. Like I say all the time, I've been around for a long time. And I'm finna say something that some people probably won't believe and that some people probably won't accept. But when I looked at it, it showed me how some people fumbled the ball. You know what I'm saying? And I look at people's life and their life choices. So I wanted to say that before I say this, right? So I'm finna answer the question. But I'm finna say something that's going to shock a lot of people. Not a lot, but some people don't know this. Yasir Qadhi actually used to be Salafi. Yasir Qadhi actually used to be one of the guys. I'm talking about the Salafis that don't accept nobody except for who they say so. Yasir Qadhi used to be one of them. Just like Dawood Adib. Just like a lot of people, once they got educated and left that form of Salafiyya. Right? When Yasir Qadhi was in the University of Medina, he was Salafi. I'm talking about Salafi, and he was actually pretty decent. There's some videos and stuff on him. I remember when he was Salafi. He even looked different than he looks now. With the beard, he only wore all white on the sunnah. You know what I'm saying? Bright white thobes. Yeah. He used to call to the Salafi dawah and all of that. Right? So, just like the usual taxes that they have, some other students and stuff that he was cool with, that he was studying with, from the UK. In the University of Medina, you got students from everywhere, from Asia, Africa, Asia Minor, the UK, America, Canada. So some of the people that he was cool with, they attacked him. And when you look at a Yarsid Qardi, some people don't have the heart or the mindset or the street mentality that comes with that side of Salafiyah. Because at the tip top, not every last one of them, but at the tip top, some of the people with the biggest voices come from the streets. Whether they was the streets in the UK, whether they was the streets in America, but they generally, for the most part, street guys from whatever environment they come from. So a little bit of that street mentality, a little bit of that thugism shines through the dawah. You know what I'm saying? Whether they got gold teeth and a keffiyeh and talking and doing their gold teeth and gold open faces so you can see their gold, so that so you can recognize they cut from that cloth. You know what I'm saying? Whether they flashing their golds in their mouth or whatever, you could see a little bit of that streetism in them. And we're not going to go to the rest of it as far as education and things like that. But some people like Yarsid Qardi who don't come from that. You know what I'm saying? Some of them don't have the mentality. A lot of guys who did a lot of prison time and then they got out of prison and latched on to the Salafi dawah, and now that's what they do for a living. They get paid to speak at masjids, be the khatib and different things like that. They make a living off being Salafi. Not saying that's a wrong thing, but some of that bullyism, some of that prison streetism that shines through that dawah, Yarsid Qardi and people like him, they not built for that. They not going to agree with it. And then some people from the streets who actually was in it and don't want to be in it no more, and they can recognize who's who, it looks phony. Yeah, y'all was in the streets, but you technically probably wasn't nobody who did something. Or you may lived in a city where you was able to get away with doing stuff because the people in the city wasn't on that level, but you're not going to do that stuff in this city you've moved to. You know what I'm saying? So, to the point, Yarsid Qardi was Salafi. Not for a weekend, not for a couple of months. He was accepted by them. He was one of their guys, and he was a student, and he was headed towards being a graduate. As you can see, he did graduate with his PhD. But once he left Medina and went to Yale, I think it was Yale or Harvard. Matter of fact, I think it was Yale. But once he transferred to Yale to finish his Islamic studies in the Kafir University, he didn't leave Salafiyah, or that version of Salafiyah, when he got to Yale. He left it in Medina because now he's being attacked because this person is his friend, and they don't attach him to the Salafi group. So the point is, of course, they feel like he didn't leave, we kicked him off, which in reality, you can't kick nobody off nothing. In reality, it's just like with the Nation of Islam mentality. Some of the people think the Nation of Islam is their religion, right? And Elijah Muhammad is the messenger and Farah Muhammad was Allah in person, but the Nation of Islam is something you could be kicked out of. Look at Malcolm X, look at Muhammad Ali, look at Elijah Muhammad's son. It's something that you could be suspended from, like long term. You could get suspended like a prison system. sentence. You suspended from 1 to 4 years. We gonna reevaluate you after a year. So it's no longer your religion. It's something you could be kicked out of. They had that same mentality where we kicked you out. We took you off of it. So what? Do that mean this is not my religion anymore? So anyway, they may cloak it like they kicked him off of it. But let's remove Yasir Cardi mistakes, because they have mistakes too. And to be honest with you, personally, with my ears, I've heard more scholars speak about them than I've heard them speak about Yasir Cardi. They're not running around having to do whole talks and clean up a whole bunch of stuff because of Yasir Cardi, but they having to do it because of them. But this isn't to defend Yasir Cardi, but we're going to say, minus his mistakes, look what Yasir Cardi has became for the Muslim Ummah. Yasir Cardi is involved in starting and establishing Muslim banks. One of the ones that he's involved in is in Chicago. He helped get a Muslim bank established in Chicago. Right? Some may consider, suburbs, but they have more than one, where Muslims could go get money to get homes, cars, all of that. All right? The countless charities and things that he's been involved in to help poor Muslims, especially in Texas. And right now, his involvement in them and all this land that they've purchased to build a whole entire Muslim city, building it from the ground up, building homes. Like right now, if you got the money, you could contact them and put a deposit down on your home. You don't have to build no $1 million home, whatever you can afford. If you can afford to build a little 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, you can have it built from the ground up. Schools, masjids, all the stores, all the businesses gonna be Muslim owned and Muslim ran. Now, of course, one of the governors or somebody in the politics there have been going around talking about they trying to establish Sharia law. So he's been trying to slow it down. And now that Donald Trump has been elected, I think like maybe 2 weeks ago, or the news reached me 2 weeks ago, where they tried to put some type of halt on it. And now they trying to investigate the Muslims for crimes and all this weird stuff. Anything they could do to slow it down and red tape it, as they call it. Try to surround the projects with a bunch of red tape to slow down the progress. Because in the beginning, something like this doesn't seem fathomable to them. Like, yeah, we gonna juke them. We gonna sell them all of this land. And then we're gonna tax them, which goes to the state of Texas. But the Muslims can't come together, and they're not going to build all this stuff, a whole city. But it started coming into fruition, right? Benefit for the Muslims, regardless to any mistakes or things that Yasir Cardi may have made, or mistakes that he may still make. It doesn't change for the fact some of the things he do for the Muslims, just like with them, with the mistakes that they make. And I'm not going to point out anything that I feel, but what the scholars have came out and called them on, we won't change the fact that there is some Muslims who call themselves Salafi and people who establish masjids that they refer to as Salafi under their tutelage. So you can't take away from the building that they're doing with the mistakes and different things in the dawah. If we can't take away from them, how are we going to take it away from Yasir Cardi? But my point being is this. I look at it and say, if Yasir Cardi would have remained Salafi like them, where would he be today? Because who's to say that Allah isn't going to accept that stuff from him? Who's to say Allah Azza wa Jal isn't going to accept Yasir Qaradi's efforts and the things that he's accomplished for the Muslim community because he may have said some things that we don't like? That's just going to be against him. But at the same time, his scale of good deeds, if they are accepted, it has the potential to be heavy. We don't know his intentions. We don't know his sincerity. We don't know if it's backroom bogus deals going on. We don't know none of that. But when you look at the accomplishments, right? When I look at it as if he would have remained Salafi and still moved the same way that he moving, we probably have a Salafi Muslim bank right now. They be working and building a real Salafi city from the ground up. Not to mention the people who he done pulled in and they done set up 501c3s and different business ventures where people up into the millions of dollars. All of this could have been used for the Salafis. Even like some of your other people who accomplished a whole lot, like Imam Bilal Phillips. Been saying he was Salafi for a gang of years before them. Before Dawood Adib and them. Bilal Phillips done always said he was Salafi. But now, he established an online Islamic university where you can go to the school and get a PhD in sciences. Not just like a Dawah degree. You can go get a PhD in Hadith. You can go get a PhD in Sharia. And it's accredited. This could have been a Salafi university. They have scholarships where people pay. If you got money and you don't have a scholarship, you pay. Now, people can discredit it and say what they want, but y'all don't even have any. If y'all went on that thing and took a test, you probably wouldn't pass it. But y'all knocking what he's done. And when I was enrolled in it, right? And the little stuff that they had, the diplomas and stuff outside of the degree programs, like they have some things that's prerequisites. You have to pass this and then go into your field. So when I passed all that, wallahi, they would email me and would say, look, we'll send you this. Like anybody who was enrolled and was showing some potential, they would email you and set it up where you could start a study group in your city, in your area, and they would provide the material and to go through the lessons and then consult you on how to use this study group. And then they had a scholar, some of them from Azhar University, like real scholars from real universities who helped design the program. And Bilal Phillips is a PhD, right? So they designed it from real curriculum. And then they have it set up where you can start study groups in your area based off of real academics. The only reason why I do it, I'm not trying to knock the people in the community, but one, they don't study anyway. I'm just gonna be honest, man. I'm not finna keep candy coating it and make it sound sweet. Nobody wanted to do nothing, but just cloaking their excuse is, well, Bilal, they warned against Bilal Phillips. You're not even Salafi. you call Salafis Salafis and Wahhabis. But now you want to listen to what they say about Bilal Phillips when you don't agree with them. You just don't want to study and do nothing. But my point is, in other areas, people took advantages of this. Because they would have, with my thing, they would have a list where other cities, like where you could connect. Like if it's a city 30 minutes away from you, 10 minutes away from you, and it's somebody else who's there, who's studying, they'll have where y'all can link. You understand? They'll have where you can actually link. So it was a couple of people who I knew that was in it, and we was friends on Facebook at the time. Now what I'm talking about though, I'm talking about in like 2014, 2015. I'm talking about 10, 11 years ago. Right? I originally enrolled and started taking classes in it in 2008. But I abandoned it. I'm going to be honest. In 2008, I did allow what the Salafis were saying about Bilal Phillips. And then at this time, I really ain't did nothing but read a bunch of hadiths and a few books and listened to them and felt like I was top notch. So the classes had a lot of fiqh in them, and because it wasn't from Bukhari, like I didn't understand at the time the things I understand now as far as athar, hadiths, so it's easy for me to point out certain mistakes because I once made them. But I just wasn't an attackish person. I wasn't running up on people. If somebody came to me, then we dealt with what was in Bukhari. But my point is, I allowed that to affect me, and I left the university alone. And at the time, I was young enough to where I could have got a scholarship and went off into where you could get a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD. They have an age limit on the scholarship, so I let it affect me. But I didn't read the thing. I didn't go through the whole thing and see that until later on when they really cleaned the program up and expanded it and brought all these teachers in. I started dealing with it again in 2012, 2013, and then boom, I'm past the age limit of getting a scholarship. Just like with the University of Medina, Mecca, there's an age limit on the people that they accept because they go into school for free. And then they want younger people so that they, the chances of them living longer and spreading the dawah and going through and accomplishing a PhD is better because they're younger. It's an investment into the future of Islam. So when you take Yasir Qadhi and you take Bilal Phillips, who was Salafi, and look at the things that they have accomplished for the Muslims. Not if you feel like they have mistakes, not that they don't call themselves Salafis. Imagine if people would have worked with them. You know what I'm saying? But I look at it, I look at Yasir Qadhi, and I look at Bilal Phillips, and say, what if they would have just stuck with that? I don't think they would be where they are today, because I understand the hindrance that comes with that particular side of Salafis. When you look at Goldie, Abu Osama, when you look at Dawood Adib, and you look at them when they was a part of that group, the anger, the street mentality that they pushed, the things they enforced up on people, and if you don't accept it, you kicked off. We're not going to talk to you. We're going to boycott you. And then when they left and when they got re-educated, they warned against that mentality. And they was the perfect people to warn from it because they came from it. So to answer the question, Yasir Qadhi is definitely qualified to speak about it because he used to be one of their guys. He was actually going to be, had he finished graduating, once he graduated and if he was still with that movement, he would actually be one of their top guys today, because he would be the only one with a PhD. It ain't none of them who running around and they doing all this. They got a PhD. You got a couple of actual graduates, but they only got like bachelors in maybe fiqh or dawah. So education wise, he would have been one of their top guys. Now of course he wasn't going to make it to being the top guy because, and with the name, because if you notice, which a lot of people don't know, in America, the ones who have the top names that people look out for, they all come from the UK, even if they from Morocco or Somalia, but they all come from Abu Khadija camp. Your Hassan Somali. Now it's a couple of African American ones who they didn't work with, but through their breakdown, they brought some of them back to help spread the dawah, which I won't have to name them, but they really just now starting to get a name. But they like these individuals wasn't on the list at one point in time. These was people they boycotted at one point in time. But my point is, just imagine if they wouldn't have pushed Yasir Cardi away. Look at all the benefit that came with that man along with his mistakes. And then what appears to be benefit with their mistakes. The marriage rate. When you look at the communities and stuff that Yasir Cardi lead in the places where he go, they don't have the same marriage problems and issues that we have, but we cloak it under, well, they foreigners. But it's African Americans that rock with him that don't have the same issues. How come it's not the dawah? Because what you call the dawah and what you actually push as an agenda under the name of Salafi dawah don't mean it's Salafiyah. Yasir Cardi accomplished milestones as a Muslim. Bilal Phillips accomplished milestones in the dawah. Abu Tauba accomplished milestones in the dawah, regardless of what you want to say about him. With his Islamic universities that's been going on, it's people who done became actual real scholars up out of his camp. Regardless of whether people want to accept him as a scholar or they not Salafi, that's just y'all. But you can't sit in a room with them and out-deem them. You can't sit in a room with them and speak high-level education with them. But you want to say they not a scholar, they not this, they not that. But you can't even hold their underwear. This is just a reality. Dawood Adib, all the great work, all the good conversations and stuff that he's having now. But man, Dawood Adib pushing 80 years old, man. We talking about back in the day when we had his youth on his side. But now that he's pushing the right type of education, most people who consider themselves Salafis don't listen to him when they are part of that because they're not allowed to. He's off of it. They kicked him off when they actually living in a house that he built. They're actually living in a house that he built. And I'm going to say this. Some people might not agree with it because they're not around. Dawood Adib was the last American up out of that camp that was strong and had a name. Everybody else, not saying it ain't some that ain't American or from Philly or this and that or Jersey, but they ain't the ones with the name like that. They ain't the ones who pull it to the forefront. Just like they trying to do something. Since Dawood Adib, there ain't been another one like Dawood Adib. The way that Germantown is built up in a name and the way Salafiyah is, man, Dawood Adib did that. Whether they want to give him credit for it or not, I know it. I was around. Not making it an American versus foreign thing. I'm just saying. And I'm mentioning that because that was a lot of the talk with the people in the area. Man, we got people who not even from America, who not even from Philly, now they done came here and they got all of us in Philly fighting. And like they said, they brought that from the UK with the Green Lane Masjid versus this one, or really them versus Green Lane Masjid, and he defended himself. You know, they defended themselves. And then these Salafis versus these Salafis, that stuff started in the UK. And then the people who was in that camp with Abu Khadijah, as they started to migrate here, they brought it with them. Salafi versus Salafi, this, that, they brought it with them. So when you had, before Dawood Adib, you had Goldie. But then when he got ran up out of Philly, or some people don't want to say that way, when he got ran up out of Germantown Masjid for the discretions that he had going on, then he went back to he went back overseas, brushed up, connected with the scholars, left that version of Salafi alone, and then he moved to the UK. And, you know, he started linking up with places like Green Lane Masjids and this and that. But Goldie is a graduate. But my point is, imagine if everybody would have worked together. Then when you bring it in, the another overachiever in Tahir Wyatt. Some of the people who they warn against and this and that, and they turning Muslims into millionaires. And they got Muslim characters, but they may be on a difference of opinion in certain things in the deen that we shouldn't even fight and argue about. They may be up on an opinion that Abu Hurairah had. This group may be up on an opinion that Ibn Maqsood had. This group might be on a Hanafi. This one might be on a Maliki. But none of that is anything that should stop us from working together. But now they done brought this mentality that we hate, we boycott, we don't speak to, we don't salam anybody that doesn't work with us. Not work with us, that bow down and work under us. That street, prison, get down and lay down mentality. Do you know, I actually heard years ago, and this is when I peeped it. Some of y'all went around, man. When one of them said, we're going to Ja Rule them. So basically what they were saying was, 50 Cent, Ja Rule was on top of the game. 50 Cent came in and smashed him and made him look so bad that he stole his fan base. So now the people who used to buy Ja Rule records is buying 50 Cent records. So when a lot of people not aware of the game, at one particular time, copying these lectures, right? Copying lectures and talks and conferences and putting them on a CD was a business. You used to have to go to these masjids after Jumar, after this, the Dawah centers, and buy CDs. Some of them was $10. Some of them, depending on what it was, may have been $20. Some may have been 2 for $5. Before this YouTube blowing up and all this and that, they made money off selling these CDs, off doing these conferences and having vending booths outside, charging vendors $250, $300 to sell whatever you want to sell outside. But they may have 10, 15 vendors that done spent $250, $300 a piece. So that thing has been flipped to YouTube views, different streaming sites, your Instagram views, your TikTok reels, to where, look, you over there, if we get you, and you, and put y'all in a conference, and then have a book to sell, everybody got to spend $30 on this book. Whether they watching online or whether they coming and sitting there. Boom. They're going to sell at least 100 books at $30 a pop that they published. Okay? He gets 2,000 views. He gets a minimum of 2,000 views per video. He get a minimum of 1,000. He gets a minimum of 3,000. He gets a minimum of maybe 500 per views. You bring them all together, put them in front of the people to read a book to them. Now all their views is going to boost this. Let's say, for instance, the name of the channel is Our Masjid, the Salafi Masjid. So this talk is held at the Salafi Masjid. Now this YouTube channel might get 20,000 views per day. They might reach 60,000 views if they stretch this talk out for 3 days. Okay? Then, what do we sell off the books? With the YouTube views and then the residuals, because people are going to watch these videos for years. So they might do 60,000 in a weekend, but in a month, it might be up to 200,000. YouTube checks. Right? Then they split the bread. But at one point in time, when you had, we'll say, Shadid Muhammad CDs and books, because he's writing books, flying off the shelves. When they said we're going to Ja Rule them, what was the first thing that they said? Anybody who had Shadid Muhammad CDs or books at your masjid, you selling them for Jumar, the scholar said get rid of it all. It was a Salafi website where 80% of the talks and the lectures, it was on YouTube though. The person who had the channel was like C. Henderson, something like that. 80% of the videos on there was Shadid Muhammad. They made them remove all Shadid Muhammad videos. Wallahi. And they said that the scholar said to do it. Now, once you stop all these Shadid Muhammad CDs that you're selling, because he was a Salafi that y'all accepted, once y'all get rid of all of his CDs, now whose CDs are they going to buy? They Ja Ruled them. Now all the people who was listening to Shadid Muhammad, y'all made them hate him, and now y'all got his, what y'all was calling, a fan base. I was around for it. So the name of the game was, anybody we stomp out, we get their fans. But see, some people don't know it. And this stuff was being said. We'll Ja Rule them. And that's why, like, when everything started going on, it was like, y'all want to know what's going on? Follow the money. So just imagine. I think Yasir Cardi was a fumble. If you move it in that way, he probably wouldn't have said the things he said that was mistakes and this and that. But he able to get in doors that y'all can't get in. So now y'all have to tear that down. Oh, none of that means nothing if you don't have Tawheed. If you don't have the real Tawheed. But the real Tawheed means I can hate this Muslim, I could disrespect this Muslim because they won't call themselves Salafi. What part of Tawheed is that? I could treat this Muslim any type of way, his family, at a funeral, at a janazah, because the masjid he went to, somebody I don't like gave a talk there. What part of Tawheed is that? What part of the minhaj is that? But just imagine if everybody would have worked together. And that's why I believe when certain people were saying, and they don't really speak on it a lot, where when we was in Yemen, when we was in Medina, it was a known fact that the FBI and CIA operatives and other things used to visit this person and that person, this, that, and the third. Yeah. Are they sent to cause division? And it's no secret. Where you even have particular imams who spoke about this and saying when they went to the airport and they're a student and a graduate and the feds came to holler at them. Look, if you're willing to work with us and give us information, we can see to it that you become the imam of this masjid and all this other stuff. And then start saying, just like they do on the streets with the people who selling dope. Yeah, such and such over there getting all the money. He worked for us. You might as well work for us too. Because eventually you're going to get caught up in the rapture. If we coming and talking to you, offering a position, then we already know who you are and what you're doing. Because the person who's selling all our drugs sell them to you. So they was coming to students like that. Just like some students will sit up and make it clear. When people slander them and put their names on this and that, now they get put on a list as a watchdog where they said some Muslims, some imams, great imams and graduates, when they leave and go overseas, they get accosted and dealt with harshly at the airport, and they tell them your name is on the FBI watch list. One imam was sitting up saying he landed in the country. As soon as he got off his plane in the airport, the feds and the authorities, like the police authorities of that city, that country, came and escorted him right back to the terminal and put him right back on another plane to America. No, you can't come here. So a lot of people not aware of these type of things, and I'm not knocking them, but I'm just saying, just imagine if everybody would have worked together. And kept the little madhab differences, the things that you can differ over, and some of them you can't, but you choose your way and let them choose theirs. We ain't got to destroy each other. We ain't got to fight each other. At least what they think, at least what they doing and they feel like it's correct, at least it did come from a madhab. At least it may have been the opinion of one Sahaba. Maybe it may have been the opinion of 20, 30 Sahabas, but 1,000 didn't agree with it. But it came from somewhere. Now, like I said, we're not talking about people with flat out 90% of what they own is bid'ah. Some of it ain't bid'ah, it's just a difference of opinion. Just imagine if everybody would work together. You sit down and think about that, man. And then you look at when you really know what's to Yasir Qarni, when you really know what's to somebody like Omar Suleiman, where they had to tear him down, but these individuals is pulling 10, 15,000 Muslims to arenas and having different things and doing all type of businesses, raising $2 million, $1 million to feed the poor and really feeding them. Really feeding poor Muslims. What $1 million you raising? Got real institutes and things set up where people actually can get a PhD and learn academically. Where y'all's at? Just like Medina College in the UK, right? With graduates from the University of Medina. They actually set up a system where you can go learn what they learn over in the UK. I watched their YouTube channel. Salafi. But how many people pushed away from them? They even have some online classes from a people who are far, but a lot of they stuff is you have to be on campus. There's a lot of universities like this with individuals who Salafi, but a lot of people don't know about them because they've been turned away, or they done missed certain age gaps where they too old to get scholarships and can't afford to pay. It's a lot of opportunities out there, but we so caught up on this bickering beef over nothing, which really is over territories. They trying to ja rule people. And I'm telling you what I heard, not rumors or somebody said. I'm talking about what I heard and witnessed with my own eyes. Because I'm going to rock with who I rock with, just like I did in the streets. Like I said, the opposite of the gang that I was in, 9 times out of 10 when you seen me, I was with a member of the opposite gang. Because they was cool. I deal with people accordingly. You know what I'm saying? As long as you don't swing on me, and as long as you don't do nothing to anybody in my family, it's all love. It's all love with me until it ain't. And then even after that, we still ain't got to be enemies trying to fight and kill each other. You move on with your life, I'll move on with mine. I'll stay out your way, you stay out of mine. That mentality came with me to the dean. You understand? I didn't care what you called yourself. I don't care what your label was. Just like in this city for years, I was considered to be the only Salafi, Salafi, Wahhabi in this whole city. Technically, by real definition, I still am. But I won't discredit the one brother whose wife was Salafi, but she's one of them Salafis that only accept you, but she married somebody who wasn't Salafi. So if it benefits you, just like with the rest of them, like I used to say, wallahi, like when we would be in those Salafi groups, they would be, oh man, you sitting with Ahlul Bid'ah, you doing this and that. You know what I used to say to them? Show us your Facebook messages. Oh, open up your Instagram DMs. Because some of these sisters who I was wakils for, but they wasn't Salafi, guess who was in their inboxes? These brothers. She Ahlul Bid'ah. What you doing in her inbox, brother? Why you in her inbox naked, brother? What's with the nudities, B? But I ain't finna go into all of that. But y'all do this, you boycotting him, this, and this. Open up your Instagram messages. Let us take a look at them. It's gonna be full of what? Deviants. According to you. So take a look at that bigger picture. So that's just a long way to answer that question. Yashir Cardi is definitely qualified to speak about it because he used to be one of them. Now because they tear him down and they don't want to admit it, just like they do Dawood Adib, they don't, like Dawood Adib said, they don't even want to mention his name. They trying to erase him out of the history of Salafiyah. They living in the house that he built. The whole little lecture, the whole little phrase from Germantown to Muslim town, because Germantown actually was like a German area. You know what I'm saying? Like a Chinatown in your area. Germantown was actually something like that for Germans. And then they turned it into Muslim town. He's the one who did that whole lecture. The history of Salafiyah in America. Those lectures and all that stuff, man, was by Dawood Adib. Back in 2010, 2008, 2007. But they don't want to say his name. Not only was he one of the shining stars, Dawood Adib was the shining star of the Salafis in America. This man said he was such, and he was the Imam of Germantown and Mufti Muhammad was his assistant. Another person whose name they want to erase out that version of Salafia. Right? This man has such a stronghold on them that he said, because the women not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia, the Muslim women in America are not even allowed to drive. A fatwa in Saudi Arabia is also a fatwa in America. They had sisters selling their cars, kid, to catch the bus. Right now, to this day, sisters who was 14, 15, 16 years old during the time when Dawood Adib had that stronghold on them, in their 30s and stuff right now, and still don't know how to drive. They just totally didn't even go to driver's ed or nothing in school because the Muslim woman couldn't drive. And when I say I know several, wallahi, I knew sisters, man, didn't even learn how to drive till they was like 36 years old. Wallahi, 34, 35, 36 years old, just learning to drive. And I'm talking about this 5, 6, they was 5, 6, 7 years ago. 34, 36, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Before COVID. I'm knowing some sisters right now in their 30s, early 30s, just learning how to drive, getting their license last year. Because of Dawood Adib. But he left that alone, and he made his Tawbah, and he speak on the mistakes he made. So now they want to erase his name from him being the shining star of the Salafis. Yasir Qaradi, they don't want to admit it. They don't even want people to know that he was one of the guys. Yasir Qaradi was a shining star of the Salafis, B, when he was in Medina as a student. Yeah. But they mistreated him. They mistreated some of his friends. And all that weird punching in your mouth and all that stuff. And those different recordings and stuff that where students was recording them and turning them into the sheikh. And stuff they talking all crazy to other students. And he ain't had a heart for that. I'm not that. Yeah, let me get on away from this. Let me get away from you brothers. Just like everybody who goes to get an education, the majority of them do. And then the ones who don't, some way, shape, or form, I'm not questioning their sincerity, but they got a plate. They got a plate to eat off of, without a doubt. They definitely getting full. No questions asked. But I'm not saying about their intentions, sincerity, not saying that they shouldn't be eating. But they eat. So not to make it about them, Yasir Qaradi is definitely qualified to speak about it. Even more so than them, because academically, he know how to research and get access to information that they can't. So anyway, man, it's a new year coming up. Think about being a new Muslim. Think about being a new Salafi. I'm not attacking the Salafis. I'm not trying to down them. I'm not saying don't listen to them. It's some benefit that come from them. That's why I'm sitting up saying we stronger together. We stronger together. We don't evolve to killing each other on the African American side. When is enough going to be enough? Because when you look at the format, once they make your honor permissible, the blood is next. Once attacking your honor and tearing you down becomes permissible, a person could put knuckles on you. It can evolve to going past the knuckles. When is enough going to be enough? So when you look at the people who step away and move forward, they outgrowing them. They actually shrinking. They actually pulling together with individuals that they once hated each other. When the last time you seen them in a conference with Abu Khadija in America? Abu Khadija used to come here. When the last conference had Abu Khadija on it as a headliner? When the last Abu Khadija Telelink? See, I don't know what's going on with them internally, but the same strife on the inside is manifesting outside. Just imagine if everybody would have stuck together. Regardless to any mistakes that Yasir Qadhi may make that we don't like, Yasir Qadhi is a shining star, man, in the Muslim Ummah in America, man, when it comes for doing and elevating the conditions that the Muslims are in. Now, some people could have held on to that like a ball team. You got a center, you got power forwards, you got a shooting guard, you got a point guard. They could have let Yasir Qadhi do that part. And then the people with the proper education that we feel is proper education, because his PhD is in one field. It's not like he got a PhD in Sharia. It's not like he got a PhD in Hadith. So in the areas where he weak in and where he make the mistakes, somebody else could have did that talking for him. But because the situation that they in, sometimes they have to be the everything for everybody. Just like, and I can relate to that, and I can understand that, because people will love you and hate you at the same time. I'm an individual that when it's time for the situations to be brought into fruition, I have to be the everything for everybody. You got to be the teacher, you got to be the imam, you got to pull the strings, you got to get this together. You got to be the everything for everybody. Oh, I don't like you could have spoke a little softer. Well, alhamdulillah, get the education, and then while I'm doing this, you sit right there and say exactly what I said in a softer way. You could have been saying it a little softer. And then when we do have the individual, cool, you able to get behind certain doors and make connections and get a free building and get a free this, that, and the third. But you and I both know, education-wise, academically, Islamically sound, you're not that. You know it and I know it. But you want to be looked at as that, and then you will mess up everything when people don't look at you that way. Why you got your hand in the cookie jar behind closed doors? That's what we could have worked together and manifest different things, but some people want to be everything for everybody when they can't even be enough for their own self. You can't even sit in a room. So like when you have individuals, my deen is messed up because of where I live. My deen messed up because of my wife. My deen messed up because of my husband. My deen messed up because of my kids. Cool. Now you remove yourself from that wife. You remove yourself from that husband. You remove yourself from that place where you lived. Now your deen still messed up, but everybody else is to blame but you. You can't even uphold your own deen. So you want to surround yourself by people who don't know how to lift up a toilet seat or urinate in it. So that way you know what I'm saying? Like they say, the one-eyed person in a world full of blind people is king. And that's why some of the reality of some of these situations, some individuals, when it comes to working together, they got to get to the back of the bus. They got to get to the back of the bus. Why get to the back of the bus when I can sit right here in the front of the bus, drive it, control where it's going, and collect fare for people to get on the bus while I drive them around? Why would I get to the back of the bus? Because it need to be about the betterment of the Muslim community instead of the betterment of you. So I can understand these things, man. Y'all want to complain about certain things that people do that you feel is mistakes. Get up and be the support system then. Sit up and help not make those mistakes so that it can free up time for them to do what they do best, and that's build. We stronger together, man. We stronger together. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.